My man, love today's episode. Jacob Rupp. He happens to be my coach currently, helping me really to get some clarity and build this business and tangentially helping you as well as we kind of get refine some of these things that we're looking to not only expand our personal lives within our personal lives, but also what we can offer others through the retreats and the mastermind and Storehouse and the messages and just the power that we believe is can be unlocked in other men's lives. And so absolutely love this interview, dude. He's wealth of knowledge. We talk mindset, but more importantly than mindset, no kidding. How do you build, how do you change, how do you refine your mindset and then do something about it? Right. And that's what we're extremely passionate about with all the areas of our Kinetic Life Circle is how do you gain knowledge, experience, whatever in these areas, but then action it, right? Do something about it.
Yeah, man. I mean, just the idea of just manifesting your life, right? Like, and really knowing what you want out of your life, right? And what God has planned for you. And something he said that I thought was really, really cool, and you guys will listen to it and dig into it. But creating columns in your life that matter, like it's powerful. Go listen to it. It will change your mindset. Go do it.
You're listening to Filling the Storehouse podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Stuart, and we want to walk with you on the journey to living the abundant life through faith, family, and freedom. Our goal is to refine our why while helping you find yours. Together, achieve our best and highest purpose. In the end, we'll drive each other to intentionally fill our storehouse.
I should have hit record a long time ago. We were having an amazing discussion with Jacob about just our faith and just Jewish versus the Christian, differences. And I think we should get into it a little bit. But first, before we kind of Jacob introduce you, I have a lot of times we offer some thoughts and guidance on some of our failures. And so I have a pretty good failure that I had this weekend. We call them dad fails, but this is more of like a man fail. We've been going through.
Wait, hey Stu, if you're
Yeah,
gonna go into man fail, we only have like an hour podcast, so is this gonna take
I'll
the
try to keep it
three
short.
hour? Or
I'll try.
okay,
I'll
because
try to
there's
keep
so
it short.
many that I
Yeah,
could
there's
help
there's
you
quite a
with,
few
dude.
of them, but so we've been in this series in our mastermind group about intimacy and love languages, and we took the love language test to see what our love languages are and had our spouses do it. And my spouse's top love language is acts of service. And so I decided to we've been having like a kind of a crappy garbage disposal. So I was like, I'm going to change out the garbage disposal this weekend. So I did that, put in a new garbage disposal, felt all proud. Well, a day later, our dishwasher stopped working. It didn't like drain the water, right? And so we're
You
like, oh, great.
forgot to run it through the.
Hey man, just give me a second. So
Sorry, sorry. Go ahead.
so like we take the dishwasher out, we take it apart, we take all the lines out, we start checking all this
Uh,
stuff. I take like tear the dishwasher apart, right?
yep, they did.
Nothing was working. Like kept on testing it over all weekend long. We're like, man, we're gonna have to get a new dishwasher. And I was super bummed. Well, we test the lines and I was like, oh wait, there's a plug that connects the
Yeah,
dishwasher to the garbage disposal. Dude didn't read the directions.
that's where the
Forgot to.
water goes.
That's where the
That's
water
where the
goes.
water goes.
Yeah, I forgot to unplug the plug. So like 2 days of working on
Yeah,
dishwasher and garbage
that's
disposal.
good, man.
I just forgot to unplug the plug.
Well,
So
you know what that I think this is appropriate to introduce Jacob too, because
uh-huh.
I think in life we all need coaches. And I think that coaching is not just for basketball, football. There's some life coach elements. There's some mindset coaching, which Jacob is a ninja.
Yeah.
There's some coaches that can help us do electrical and water. Those are called plumbers as
I was
well.
gonna I
And
was
we
gonna
can
be
get
very concerned that that was where this conversation was gonna go because I don't even know what any of these things are with lines and
Jacob
plugs.
is a plumber. He's a plumber. He's a mind plumber. He gets things
There you
unclogged
go.
in your
That,
mind
that
so
that
that
I
you
can
can
help you
flow
with.
towards
That I can help
action.
you with.
Yeah.
Hey Jacob, tell us a little bit about yourself and just Stu, I want to encourage you, man. You did
Yeah.
it though. You
I
did
did
it.
it.
You
I
learned
did it.
something, you put in effort, you spoke your wife's love. What drove this entire thing, I don't want to lose this,
Yeah.
is a desire to to speak to your wife's love language. And that is a beautiful thing. You
Yeah.
took a very long detour to get there potentially,
Took a full weekend,
but it's a beautiful story.
Yep.
It's a beautiful story. But Jacob is, he's my coach, and we've gotten to know each other pretty well. And I have been extremely grateful, or I am currently extremely grateful just for a lot of the things that we've talked through and you've helped me through from the perspective of mindset culminating in action. And I think that is the key. Mindset's part of our Connect Life Circle, something that we value and are very passionate about. But it's really not just enough to know about mindset, right? We have to get into action. So with that kind of context, tell us a bit about yourself, Jacob.
Thank you so much, both David and Stu. It's such a pleasure to be a part of what you guys are doing. I just met Stu, but I have the utmost respect for the mission and for what you're doing. And I can't state enough how crucial it is to be providing this message and these messages for the demographic to whom you serve. And it's really inspiring. So I appreciate you having me here. A short background. I spent about 15 years in nonprofit work as a rabbi, going and working with different, it's funny. Truth is, I failed Hebrew 3 times. And in college, my professor told me, if you just shut up, I'll give you a C. And I was like, oh, I'm going to quit and try again. Anyway, fast forward to again. And I had an early mentor that told me that there's nothing in life that doesn't have a shortcut. So I sort of, now again, I think it's the more actually, there's a brilliant book on investing that actually talks about one of the wealthiest billionaires, I think maybe the number 1 billionaire in India. His whole approach was he looked at Warren Buffett and just copied what he did. And he said the most shocking thing about investing was there's one guy that's really, really good at it and nobody follows him. And so I sort of try to figure out what I want to do, which is really to inspire people and to make religion relevant, because those are the 2 areas where in my life I always looked for inspiration and I always wanted to make religion relevant. So I spent about a decade working with college students at UCLA. And the funny thing is I never saw myself as a business person or in sales. It's funny. One of the things that Moses says when God appears at the burning bush is, Moses says, "I'm not a man of words." And the 5th book of the Bible, which was according to our sources actually written by Moses, is actually called words. Deuteronomy means, that's the Greek, but the Hebrew word devar means words. So the very thing that Moses said he didn't have, he actually wrote a book by the same title. So for me, that was very much sort of an inspiring lesson where the things that I struggled with, ultimately, I looked to be that person that could try to inspire others, primarily because it keeps me in a place where I'm always learning and excited, and then surrounded by people that are talking and interested and involved with the very things I am. So I spent 15 years in nonprofit work. I realized that sometimes the most valuable things that we would, not even assign a value to, if you start putting money behind it, though, people really pay attention. And so, and that's something that I started teaching. I started doing a lot of coaching myself, taking a lot of biblical ideas and translating them for, again, not just college students or elderly people, but fathers and husbands and frankly, business people, which I felt, really did. There was a real easy benefit when you start to consider some of these topics around service and charity and integrity and where that fits in the workplace and where that fits as a father and as a husband. And about 5 years ago, I realized that education is a disaster in this country. And it's I don't know if we ever discussed politics. Hopefully I don't offend anybody, but it's really one of the many money-making rackets that doesn't actually deliver any real value. And again, if you look at the military, the way that the military works and especially in some of the the most prestigious of units, it's like you find someone that's basically doing what you do, ask them how they got there, and then follow their example. And the guys in the front have to be able to lead from the front. And within the world of the college, that wasn't really happening, and people were charging a lot of money for it. So I figured if I could just train people who already had basic skill sets, how to actually build a business around it. I have a dream of eventually shutting down, this will be the first time I say it publicly, shutting down Harvard and all of the prestigious schools. Again, if you want to go, great, go and enjoy yourself. But really creating an environment where people can learn from each other and also be compensated for the value of their experience and what they give over to others in a more direct way. That's my life in a nutshell.
That's pretty incredible, man. I love that. And one of the things that stuck out to me was I imagine there was a significant shift in the way you thought about things to go from teaching these kids at UCLA and not really being necessarily business minded from the perspective of pursuing, you said you did nonprofit work and there were other things that you were effectively seeming like giving a lot of stuff away for free. And I'm curious on how you made that mindset shift and what kind of struggles that you went through specifically to go from a life of service to a life of serving, but also recognizing your value and being able to effectively build a business off that. And the reason I ask and why I think it's very relevant is oftentimes we talk about people in transition, right? So a lot of times, and you just change the career path, but a military person goes from a career and a life of service where you're being compensated, right? But you have so much to offer, so many skills, and many of them struggle to highlight their true value, whether it's going into a W-2 and negotiating for a salary or whatever that looks like, because our mindset is set in a way that we believe service equals cheap labor a lot of times. And it's just not necessarily the truth.
Well, going back to some of those larger institutions we spoke about where there's just a disproportionate amount of, kind of money invested in versus value that comes out, someone is making money at the top of that pyramid. And, I think that's one of those things that we're talking about now politically is like, who actually is making all this money and where's all that money going? That being said, what, there was an interesting conversation I had with someone who was suggesting I just be myself. And one of the things that I feel is a constant in my life is I'm always looking to figure out what I want and also who's done that. And I can remember I grew up extremely lower middle class, and I grew up with two parents that worked. I remember my mom when I launched my company telling me, well, you can't get health insurance, so you have to keep working somewhere else. And I was like, Mom, I was making no money the other place. But she's like, but you had health insurance. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I recognized that, my father and my mother both, their economic circumstances were just the result of what they were thinking about and what they were looking at. And as I actually started my religious journey, because I did not grow up terribly religious observant, I noticed for the first time entrepreneurs and people that just kind of operated based on a different set of rules. And I think there's really two types of people. There are the types of people that say that must be nice. And then there are other types of people that say, well, if he can do it, I can do it. And if I just know what the person has done or understand that. And that was really like, I honed in and again, if you look at, I was just reading a book about Sir John Templeton, who is one of the greatest investors of this current, I think he died in like 2008, 2006, something like that. But the fascinating thing was in the different things that he had accomplished, he had a degree in positive psychology from this guy, Vincent Norman Peale. And I told my son, I'm like, you hear that? So again, my son like jokes around because whatever, he's 11 and he talks about, people, he's very practical. He's a reincarnation of my grandfather, who was like an engineer. And so my son doesn't necessarily see that right away, but I said that there's a science of thinking like a winner. And so one of the fundamentals of thinking like a winner is recognizing the value of positive psychology and the idea that if someone's done it, you could also do it. And so it becomes just literally a character study of people who have achieved things in life that you look at and you ask yourself like, well, why can't I do that? And if you have that perspective, you're consistently expanding out the boundaries of what's possible. So again, it's never really about the quality of the skill. It's a lot more about the packaging and studying. You say, oh, we had this actually in one of our calls yesterday. Someone was saying, well, I thought if I wanted to build a coaching company, I needed to be the world's greatest coach. I said, you have to figure out, do you want to be an operator or an owner? And the operator is always trying to be the best operator. And the owner is trying to hire the best operator, right? So if you're running a hedge fund, you don't want to be the smartest guy in your hedge fund. You want to be the guy hiring the smartest guys in your hedge fund so that you can have the smartest people working for you. So I think that was one of those big fundamental shifts that I started to notice is humanity has achieved so much, and these are people. And if God allows other people to do things like that, what would have to happen in order for me to have those things that I want? Did that answer the question in a very roundabout way?
Yes. I think yes. The answer is yes. But I think, so I'm wondering, like, how does someone get to that mindset? I mean, is this something that you're born with, or is this something that is learned over time? Is it learned through just experiences and putting yourself out there, or surrounding yourself with other people, or just pure education or trying new things and failing? Like, what is it that gets you to that changing your mindset from, that fixed mindset to a growth mindset?
It's such a wonderful question. And obviously, well, I'll give you the best, but not qualify that answer. So they definitely found that, certain people are born on a certain, like, almost, you'd call it like an autistic spectrum, where they don't care about other people and not care about the opinions of other people. And you see some of the most successful people in the world. Again, you look at a guy like Elon Musk, for example, and he is socially off. There's no question about that. You look at a guy like Trump, he's socially off. You'd be like, why did you say that? And the answer is like, he's not thinking the same way we do.
I don't care.
Right. It's like so there certainly is a biological or physiological element to, do I care what other people think or not? Am I naturally going to go after or not? That being said, we're also hardwired through the millions of years of human evolution to really try to fit into a crowd. The interesting thing is, whether or not we're born that way, the question is, it's funny. I changed a great deal about my religious identity growing up from in the Bay Area of Northern California to being an Orthodox Jew in Jerusalem, to now where people don't know, like, are you Jewish, not Jewish? Like some, like what, and I've never like hidden my identity, but I've always been, I think it's been a stage of evolution. And one of the concepts that's sort of been permanent is just trying to stay within integrity to myself and trying to figure out what's actually true and what's actually serving me. And I think that goes back to the most fundamental principle, which is, I don't think any of us should be trying to start a revolution and change the world, because ultimately you see the most evil people in the world, that's what they wanted to do. But really what we want to do is maintain integrity with ourselves, be open to changing, and recognizing that if things are not working in our lives, we are capable of changing. I think that's the biggest thing, which is to say, ask yourself, take a snapshot of your life. Again, that's one of the things we train on. I work with a lot of companies, and I work with, small businesses, people building their coaching businesses. And the question is always like, what does the data say? And if no one's buying your stuff, no problem. Let's figure out something people want to buy. If you don't know what people want to buy, ask them. If you don't know who to ask yourself, well, who would I want to work with? So I think the most fundamental principle here is to ask yourself, is your life working the way that you want? And if you feel, I don't know, a spiritual void, awesome. So what would you want to fill that? Who could you start speaking to? Where do you start from? Maybe, and again, some people might find the religion or the training of their youth and find it that it's empty, and that's fine. So then go the next step, right? So the idea would basically just be, is it working for you? And if it's not working for you, what do I want instead? And then how can I find that? So I think it's just whether or not I'm sorry. I told David, I talk for a living. So sometimes it's hard a little bit to shut me up. I had a wonderful interaction with a father and a son recently. The father was a incredibly successful investor, and the son also very successful in his own right. That being said, the father introduced the kid as much more intelligent than the father, and the kid spoke with complete reverence about his father. So it was a very beautiful relationship that I witnessed. And one of the things that I was speaking to the son about, he said, I was stunted for really my whole life, because I was told I was an introvert and I could never be successful like my dad. And I said, the difference between you and your dad, it might be that your mind is more logically structured, and your dad doesn't realize how good he is at social flow. The guy, it just flows through him. He can work a room, and it's amazing. But I said, if you think about it, your logical mind can break down what your father actually does to see why he's successful. I said, for example, I noticed when your dad was talking to me, he touched my hand about 15 times through the course of the conversation, which created instant rapport. I said, he said my name about 7 or 8 times. The dad's probably not calculating that. Oh, touch his hand now. Say the guy's name now. That being said, if you're studying someone that's a master communicator, even if you are not necessarily born that way, you could say, well, what is this guy doing to be so successful and so influential?
Well, yeah. And one of the things that, David and I have noticed, and even in our own lives, is, you mentioned that you ask these individuals like what they want. I think there's a lot of people that don't even know. Like, if you ask that question, what do you want out of your life? What are you missing? What's the void? They don't know how to answer it. And for a long time, David and I didn't know how to answer it, even though we've been serving the military for 20 years. We have a family, we have a real estate business, we have all these things that, quote unquote, we're successful, but like, there's a lot of other things that we wanted in our life that we weren't having.
Well, that's the most amazing thing. And that is definitely something that if you consider, and again, it goes back to, you can go back to really the fundamentals from a psychological or philosophic perspective of where people come from and how our minds work in the first place. That being said, you know, there are certain people who are toward people and there are certain people who are away from people. And so one of the things you'll find, and this works in marriage, it works in business, it works in fitness. I see it the most. I mean, and I had to retrain myself on this, and I'm in a process of retraining myself consistently, which is, I've lost and found many pounds over my life. At my heaviest, I was, I think, 265 pounds. I am a very, very tall 5'5". I was a size, I think it's a 44 waist, and and I was able to lose, thankfully, probably close to 100 pounds at a certain point. Not that, no, it wasn't that much. Well, no, I was 265. My lowest was 260. Yeah, 168. Yeah. Anyway, so I lost a tremendous amount of weight. And then I would slowly put it back on. It's been back and forth. And what I was recognizing was I didn't want to be fat. So as soon as I stopped being fat, I would put weight back on. And if you look at, again, probably speaking to you gentlemen, or I remember like talking about with our, I think, mutual friend, John Ballinger, about, pull-ups and having abs. And he was like, I can help you with that. It's like, a talented physical specimen doesn't think about, I don't want to be fat. It's like, I want to be in the best operational shape I can be. I want to treat my body in a way that it serves me. I want to be able to achieve things with my body. Same thing with business. If you don't want to be broke, you might make a lot of money, but then usually you'll find people sabotaging it and finding themselves in a lot of financial trouble. Mike Tyson and Floyd Mayweather being some of the best examples of people that can generate money like you cannot imagine. And consistently, like Floyd said, I fight because I take my bank account back down to zero. And then, and again, if you look at, I think Conor McGregor or Mike Tyson said it, that you have to have a certain mentality to be a prize fighter. You usually have to come from nothing and have that be the only way you can get out. And they asked, I think it was Mike Tyson, they asked Conor McGregor, do you want your kids to fight? And they said they don't have the fortitude to fight because they were raised in such luxury. So I think the concept is, no matter where we start, creating a consistent focus on what do you want. And, one of the things that I train on, which I learned from some of my coaches, is, to create a list of 100 wants. Now, again, most guys won't know like 100 wants. Like you'll actually tap out around probably 15, right? You're like a watch, like, okay, two watches and a nice pair of pants. And you're like, well, like, and then like you run out. So like we, first of all, we say, what are 100 things that you want? And what are 100 experiences you want to have? And what's a 90-year timeline? And what I started doing, I did my 100 wants. It was hard, but I got there. And then I'm consistently growing it. So you try to get to 1,000 wants. So the whole concept, it's not about having stuff. It's about having the mind of a champion that is consistently focused on, what do I want? It's not about, just one quick story. I bought my first Rolex. Now, again, I come from very, very humble beginnings, and I really, again, I don't think this stuff makes me at all. I don't think of that at all. And if anything, really what I want my legacy to be is that anyone can do it. So like, if I can get a Rolex, and again, I don't want to be not able to get a Rolex, because then, it's very easy to talk about, money's the root of all evil when you don't have any. That being said, I want to just, so I got a Rolex, and I messaged a mentor of mine, and I said, I want to show you this. And he said, that's awesome. Let me show you some of my collection. And he showed me his 7 Rolexes. Then he showed me one of his watches. I didn't know how much. I showed a friend of mine. I was like, how much is that watch? He's like, 250 grand. I'm like, oh my God. Now, the crazy thing is, why do I want a $250,000 watch? The answer is like, I want to be the kind of person for whom sending that kind of money is not really a big deal, because, and I actually talked to David about this. What does that mean in terms of like my charitable giving? What does that mean in terms of my ability to generate wealth? If I could have that, how big of a level could I be playing, and how much positive effects could I have in the world? So that's kind of the way that we focus on. Again, it's not just having this nice thing. It's like, how do I keep trading up? Because I'm not just going to trade up in my physical stuff. I'm going to trade up in my mindset, my marriage, my fitness, my business, how I help people, my charity, etc.
Yeah, there's a lot there, and I'll start at the end. I love the idea of the mindset and what I see you doing is, so you got the Rolex, and that's great, and that's amazing, and some people want the Rolex, they don't, but what you did is you went to a mentor who you are trying to be more like, because they're they are living a life that is intriguing to you. And he goes, man, that's awesome. Congratulations. here's where you could be, right? And what that really boils down to for me is, who are you choosing to spend your time with? Where are you choosing to invest, to grow, right? If you hang out with a bunch of people who are, and we'll just use the watch analogy, are Casio folks, then cool, like you're going to get a Casio, and that's great, and that may be great for you. But when you translate that into like physicality, okay, well, do I want to hang out with dudes that have six pack abs, or cake bellies? Well, if you hang out with the cake belly guys, then you're going to start resembling that. If you hang out with the six pack guys, you don't fit in. You don't fit in immediately, so you got work to do to start getting that six pack, right? And so I love the idea, and it's not an idea, it's an intentionality. It's an intentionality in seeking out who you want to be. And so now, to go back to something you were saying earlier, it really boils down to those questions that you're asking yourself and the clarity you achieve around that, right? Like that exercise you highlighted, the 100 wants. I was telling the mastermind about it because I love that idea. And our language has also changed. Stu and I had a conversation yesterday. What do we want this business to be? Who do we want to impact? Where do we want our time? Not, I don't want to do XYZ. I don't want to do this thing. I don't want. And the power, just that shift. I realize we've been saying what we don't want for years, but that's inconsequential. That's, and we've been potentially been getting the things that we don't want, instead of owning the things that we want. And in your mind and your self-talk and the way you talk to your business partners and your people in your circle, hey guys, what do we want? And what is the power in that? Stu, it looks like you're itching to throw in.
I was just gonna brag on you. Honestly, Jacob, you'll be proud of David, because he started using this coaching ninja stuff on me while we were like in conversation talking about our business. And I was telling him, like, I don't want to do this. 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 And he's like, whoa. What do you want to do? He's like, tell me what you want to do. And he started like coaching me. And I was like, dude, I don't want to be coached. And I'm like, all right, I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. And he's like, dude, your complete body language has completely changed. And you just got excited about like saying what you want to do instead of all this stuff about what you don't want to do in our business. And like, let's go there, right? Let's go do that. And
what
and
inspired me too, right? It inspired me when I'm like, dude, you're firing me up, man. Like you were being a Debbie Downer, and I couldn't frame it, right? I just felt it. I'm like, ugh. And then we changed that slight tenor of the conversation. And to be clear, I wasn't trying to, Jacob, I did not request permission to coach, because I was not coaching. I just said, let's adjust this a little bit.
Yeah.
But he started throwing it out there, and I'm like, dude, I'm fired up. Like, I'm fired up.
Yes.
Let's do it.
So I think that you nailed that other piece, which is, again, most people are either going to say what they don't want or what they need. And the other piece, which is problematic, that I think you both must have picked up on, is if you're just operating out of need, it does not actually provide any level of inspiration for you to actually do it. And you always sort of drop below what you need. So again, the best example was, I needed to make 6 figures. And so all I would do is find jobs. It was amazing. I kept finding jobs less and less and less below that 6-figure mark. And when you start to want things, it releases. And again, if you're the kind of, well, we all want that. If you think about a really effective communicator, they're going to be the people that are again, there's a famous book named Selling the Dream by Guy Kiyosaki, who was one of the early marketing gurus of Apple. And he talks about, you have to sell a dream. You have to sell a dream because the dreams are what motivates people. When you think about even the founding fathers, like what were they selling? They were selling a dream. There was a great line, date yourself, but I was like raised on a Gladiator, and there's a famous line that Russell Crowe says. He says, there once was a dream that was Rome. No, I'm sorry, Marx really says it, and he said you could only whisper it, otherwise it would vanish. And it that really like stuck in my mind. It's like, what's the dream that I'm living through? And again, it's not a want, and it's not a need. It's not a don't want. It's a want. And the one other piece that I wanted to suggest, you mentioned, again, we talked about the physical body. We talked about the benefit of being around people that are doing so much better than you. And again, why doesn't everybody do it? Because it screws with your ego, because you really have to, you are that person where you're not really sure. Again, two pieces. Number one is you want to create columns in your life that matter. That's crucial. That's something that I always had a problem with, because as I tried to, grow religiously, this was a 10-year lesson in my life that I'm telling you, this literally cost me 10 years and unimaginable amounts of suffering and therapy. Not that they're the same thing. What I wanted was an authentic connection with God. What I made a mistake to do was I put myself solely in the rabbi category, and the rabbis that I spent most time with had no money or had gotten money as part of an inheritance. They didn't make money through their work. And I didn't ever put those two and two together. So I didn't make a spirituality category and a business category. I put them together. So you have to create categories for those things that matter to you, and then only select the mentors in each category for that category. So you might, again, you do not need your minister, your priest, your rabbi to have six-pack abs. If you want six-pack abs, though, you have to find someone in your circle who does have six-pack abs, so you can have both the spiritual connection and the six-pack abs. And neither your spiritual advisor or your coach needs to be super wealthy. That being said, if financial abundance is important to you, you got to find someone that's doing that. So being able to essentially create the best version of you by finding those different verticals are absolutely crucial. And again, how do we avoid that ego trip of like being around people that are, excelling so much beyond us? Is we have to realize that what they have isn't who they are. One quick thing. And I thank God I completed a 20-year trauma cycle in my life. My dad got got a Porsche 911 and then left the family. For 20 years, I've wanted to get a Porsche to basically show that I was able to have the Porsche and the family. So thank God, nice. We have a nice Porsche in the garage. And one of the things I noticed as part of that experience is that it doesn't make you. It doesn't make you at all. It's irrelevant. The stuff that you have when you drive a nice car, people don't see you in the car. They see the car and they put themselves in the car. So when you drive up to the valet, you think you're getting out. I was like, oh, this guy's a badass. No one sees you. You're irrelevant. They see your car. They don't even notice you. And then they think to themselves, oh, I would like a car like that. So the point would be, do that with your ego as well. The abs, the money, the good looking family, the kids, the well-behaved kids. We're not looking at you. These are things that people have, but who we are people. And if you connect with people for who they are, then what they have shouldn't be intimidating to you, because that's not who they are. They're not any better than you, but they might have achieved things that you aspire to achieve.
Yeah, dude. I love one of the things you said there. And again, I want to highlight, there's a lot of mindset stuff here, right? There's a lot of addressing the mentality things here, but there's a very practical exercises and things that we can do. So no kidding, create categories that matter to you. And then, as you said, you find those people within those categories that can help you get to where you are, and not conflating the things, right? And I love how, one, it's very actionable because it's bite size. Okay, I want six-pack abs. Who do I know that has six-pack abs? Okay, that guy, I'm going to reach out to that guy. I'm just going to make a phone call. Like I talked to a fitness guy the other day from LinkedIn. Like a guy referred me to another guy, and we had a phone call, and it wasn't necessarily what I was looking at, but the fit, but it was so easy to do. Like it was just a very easy thing. That dude has lots of six-pack and is very fit, but at least now I know, right? At least now I took an action to have a person in my corner that I can then choose. And a lot of times it's going to cost a resource, but at the end of the day, what has it cost you in resources to not pursue those things? Which I think is also an important question, right? You are where you are. And Stu and I love saying this. You are where you are because of the decisions you made. Like, it's just own it. It's your decisions. You are where you are. What do you want to do about it? And so I love that there are very practical things we can do, and it's not that hard, right? Most people want to talk about themselves. So if you get them on a call and be like, hey, dude, I'd love to know how you make so much money. And they're going to be like, oh, dude, let me tell you, right? Like, they're going to want to talk about it because it's important to them. And if it's important to you, then you reach out to that person. It's not that big of a stretch. So I love those action items.
Awesome.
So what, so you're in this coaching world now, and you're helping people understand how to change. And there's a big difference between coaching and mentoring. And we've kind of been discovering that ourselves through just this mastermind group and having other conversations with coaches. So, I'm just curious, like how do you get into somebody's mind to help them understand what they need to change and how to change without you just being like, you need to do this. You got to do this, right? Like, how do you help them find what they have to, achieve, if you will?
Best question ever. Thank you.
Yes. Do you
Yes.
hear that,
I,
David?
I
Do
just
you
want
hear
to
that,
highlight. I
David?
just want to highlight one thing. No, the more you get to know Jacob, the more you realize that he uses very powerful, affirming words, and it's very effective and it's beautiful, and I love it because he's an amazing individual and he can do that. But I would offer, because Stu's never heard these things, Jacob, especially twice in one podcast. He's never been told great question or best question ever. So we can be honest on this podcast too.
I think that, one of the things, I chase, with language. It's so important. Like I had a wonderful client that he went from, literally working two jobs and not being able to support his family to making so much in his side hustle and it just didn't compete. Like, this guy was working two full-time jobs. He lives in a different country, so perhaps it's a different income. He was making under $5,000 working like insane hours, and he grew his coaching company, which he was doing in about 7 hours a week, to his slow months were about $35,000-$40,000. And he didn't even like put two and two together until I pointed out. But one of the words he always used was overwhelmed. I'm so stressed. I'm so overwhelmed. I said, imagine just taking that word out of your vocabulary. And this is a long-tailed answer. I didn't forget what you asked, Stu. What I pointed out was that when you use the word overwhelmed, you say overwhelmed. I try to take words like stuck, but, and no out of my vocabulary because, well, I don't want to hear those. And I don't want to, again, the word but is awesome because it literally negates everything you said before. So if you're like, honey, we had such a wonderful time together and I love you so much, but, so you might as well just deleted that line. And we don't know that. So just switching but to and is so powerful. So also the concept is, how do people feel when they're around you? So I'm always hyper aware. I try to be hyper aware. Are people around me feeling good? And so I use words like that because I genuinely want people to feel good. And the truth is that we do better work, and these are great opportunities, great questions. We actually access better parts of our brain to consistently grow when we are feeling in a very positive state. I think there's something there about ourselves, our kids, our marriage, something. Again, same thing. If you make your wife feel like crap, or if you're always feeling like crap around your wife, it's not going to be surprising that relationship winds up being draining. Even if you always are coming to your wife, and she's a wonderful lady who's going to take all of your sufferings and your burden, and it feels good to tell her all the things that happen. Ultimately, that becomes a depository of negativity. And then it's no surprise that you associate negativity with your wife. And if that isn't what you want, meaning you want to be in a good marriage, a happy marriage, a positive marriage, you want to be feeding that marriage with positivity, as opposed to, oh my God, I'm just so stressed. I'm not sure how we're going to handle this whole thing. So that's piece number one. Stu, you asked the question about how do you get into people's head. So ultimately, the only way you influence others is, well, you can't. You have to be able to allow them to influence themselves. And so the most effective thing that I've ever deployed, or when I am coached myself, is through questions. That you can show me the right way to do it. You can tell me the right way to do it. Until it's made sense, until the things have closed in my mind, I'm never going to do it. So the most effective way to coach others, or to have yourself be coached, is through questions. And so I can't overstress how the worst coaches in the world, the ones that don't make the most money, are the ones that are out there giving over the lectures. I'm assuming we've all sat through college classes or school and just droned out and just drooled on ourselves. And that was all the best information in the world. You should do all these things. It didn't. That being said, one question. I was speaking to one person at this, I spoke to someone, and she was the wife of a very, very successful investor. And she said her whole life changed because she was sitting with a friend of hers, and, like, they were on top of the world, like, actually. And the friend said, are you happy? And she was like, oh my God, I never asked that question. And so again, you could give all of the you shoulds. One, are you happy? A 3-sentence question completely changed the whole focus of her life. She changed how she parented. She changed how she was, like her marriage. She changed everything based on a 3-word question. And so what do you want? Do you want the thousands of reams of pages that are spent on telling people what to do? Or do you want that 3-word question that shifts everything in your life?
So good.
And I think the power of the questions is so, for whatever reason, is so foreign to us, right? Just one of the things we have our guys go through is the why exercise. Okay, ask yourself, do this for yourself. Ask yourself why. Okay, ask yourself why again, and get 7 whys deep to try to see if you can gain some clarity on the things that it is that you truly want to pursue in your life, and are you even going that direction? And so this idea of not only asking others great questions through coaching and helping, but it's how often do we do that for ourselves, right? And I think that in and of itself is a mindset shift. Recently I've been asking myself, you said something earlier about being in integrity with yourself. And I've recently been asking, does this serve me? So whether it's, putting a piece of cake in my face, or whether it's skipping a workout, or whether it's yelling at my kids, if you stop for 1 second and be like, okay, does this serve me? Is this who I want to be, where I want to be? And is this going to get me there? No, it's not. And then I may still shove it in my face, but at least there's full ownership. Or I may still yell at my kids like I did this morning, but there's still full ownership. And then I could go back and apologize. I can get an extra workout, whatever it is that I need to do to rectify it. So I think the power of those questions is amazing. I really appreciate you highlighting that. Hey, so where's Jacob Rupp headed? Tell us what the future looks like, and how someone like you continues to push yourself to grow, and continues to, you're a master mindset guy. You receive coaching. Are you still going to pursue more coaching? Are you, still trying to develop your mindset? Like, give us the practical, way forward for Jacob Rupp.
Another one of my favorite lines at the end of the Bible, Moses says, now Moses is the Bible itself, the Old Testament says that there will never be another prophet who is like Moses that like spoke to God face to face. And this is just itself a fascinating concept, which is that a lot of our commentaries explain that the difference between Moses as a prophet and the subsequent prophets, of which there were many, and for those of us, if you hear like names like, Jeremiah or Isaiah, like those are all prophets. And the difference was, it says that like the later prophets would kind of project their own egos onto the vision that they had, the clarity they had of the transmission from God. And Moses was essentially like a clean window. And so the way that Moses was so successful as a prophet was essentially Moses himself didn't exist. He was just a channel for God's blessing. So that's just a cool thing to consider. Like, how are we, kind of projecting our own stuff and screwing up everything in the process? Again, if you go back to on a marriage side or a parenting side, how much are we trying to, push our own agenda versus actually hearing what our spouses might be saying? Again, I'll open the question up and proudly say I rarely listen either to that. That being said, I want to do that. And I want to know, like, what does my wife actually want? And it's crazy when you're like, wow, I never heard that. And we've been married for, almost 20 years. So the idea would be, at the end of Moses's life, he says to God, I'm just beginning to understand your greatness. And so the crazy thing about that is that Moses, at the end of his life, for the thing that he was the best at, he feels like he's just a beginner. And one of the things in Hebrew that we call our sages is the students of the wise, meaning you have the oldest man, the guy's like 100 years old, the long white beard that knows everything. He's a sage of the wise. He's a student of the wise. He's not the wise. So I think that I almost like recoil at the idea that I would ever, God forbid, get to a place where I don't invest more and more in my coaching. The more money I make, the more I dump into coaching. Yeah. So, and what am I chasing? What's the big vision? Yeah. I mean, it's like world renowned and billions of dollars, and we're all laughing, but I'm like, no, I'm serious about that, because if you think about it, what is better? There was a fascinating, one of my early, just to completely come out of the closet in terms of my political leanings. I was basically raised by a guy named Michael Savage, who had a very, conservative political talk show I listened to it like 3 hours a day growing up. And he just recently had a guest on of people that realized the way to really radically change society is to have children. And they, and the whole point was like, if you really love something like your country or like your religion, the easiest way to perpetrate it, to propagate it, is to have kids. And they were like, wow, we just decided we were going to have kids. And he was like, yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? And so the idea would basically be, the best people to have, if you really love something, you want to have a lot of money, you want to have a lot of kids, you want to have a lot of influence, because ultimately those are tools for you to have a big impact. So the ability to just write a check to, so again, this billionaire investor in India, like what did he want to do? At the end of the day, he realized like he found an amazing charity that would basically help kids from the poorest parts of India get into the top colleges. And he'd sunk so much money in that. If he didn't have the money to sink into it, these kids would still be in that the caste system, never being able to get themselves out of that position. So ultimately, I want to find what God wants me to achieve consistently, being able to see the different nuances of where that is and how that is. And I want to help as many people as I can in the process.
That's so good, man. It reminds me of, I was listening to John Mark Comer. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he has a podcast. He's written some books, and he talked about this idea of life compound interest. Like, money compounds over time and it grows slowly. But then as you get older and older, or like as the money grows, there's this hockey curve effect, right? And just like over time, just drastic change. And like, you talked about the elders and the sages and this idea of life compounding over time. Like we're growing slowly. But then as we get older, we get more experience. We have more networks. We have more ideas and thoughts, and we're always learning. And then it's just like, boom, hockey stick curve growth. And then like, you're just like this amazing human being at the end. Or you could be a really, really huge turd at the end, right?
100%.
So like you have like these super old guys that are like super awesome or like super like angry and gnarly.
100%. That's what they say is at the end, you are just that's also not only from a while you're in this world, but also the concept of after a person dies. For those that have a concept of the afterlife, it's like you are exactly what you created. That's the whole concept. And you stripped away all of the other stuff. It's called in the Jewish world religion, we call it the world of truth, is the world after you live, because there everything's stripped away and you can actually see what did you accomplish in your life. Or the alternative. I want to share just one last concept that I learned from a mentor that just like really radically shifted my mindset. Because when you throw out these big visions, a lot of people think, I don't want to believe. Again, I just told you I want to change billions of people's lives and make billions of dollars, and all of the and again just try to like actually fulfill my potential, which even if you look in the Bible, like pretty much very few people did, except like Abraham. There's a line after he sacrificed Isaac where God's like, Abraham repeats it, and the sages explain that at that moment, Abraham had reached the pinnacle of what his potential had been. So the idea is, though, if a person has a big vision and big goals for themselves, it's very important to recognize that you also have to learn how to be happy. Meaning, a lot of times people, I had actually a guy that reached out and he's like, next time you get a new car, you have to call, because I had just gotten my first BMW, and he's like, if you get another one within a year, I'm going to have to speak to you about that, because you're just getting, you're getting too greedy or whatever it might be. And what I realized, I have a mentor who, has one of the most beautiful homes I've ever seen. Thank God seen quite a few very lovely homes. This guy has like one of the nicest, and, has so much stuff and is such a pillar of his community. And, I remember asking him early in my journey, I said, hey, do you ever worry about money? And he's like, dude, I'm a real estate investor. I worry about money all the time. What are you talking about? He's like, and he went through his investments, the home, the life that he has. And I realized at that moment, there was never going to be an amount of money where I stopped worried about money, because this guy's like doing really, really well and he's stressed out about money. So what I recognized is I want to acquire money, but I don't want to be stressed in the process, meaning I want to be joyous about the process. So especially as you would consider what can I achieve in my life, you also want to recognize that we have an obligation and opportunity to be consistently happy now. Where if as Tupac said, if I was going to die today, like, did I live a good life? And most of us have trouble. Like no, I don't want to say that. We want to be able to have that dichotomy of both being very hungry for the future while being completely satisfied in the present.
That's hard to do.
I wouldn't say that. I think no, that's the point. I would say
it's a choice.
And how do I do it? That's the question. Are there people that are happy right now and also very, very hungry for the future? And the crazy thing is, and I'm all about this, and I think that hopefully I'm not going to sound like a complete weirdo. Like you get whatever you can manifest stuff. And so if you say, I want to be happy, show me someone that's happy and phenomenally successful and hungry to keep building, I would bet you guys, any of your listeners, like just put it out there and you will likely find that person within a very short period of time.
I'll tell you what's interesting too is I was having a conversation after a bike ride the other day. Actually, Stu and I and another gentleman went on a mountain bike ride, came back, and the other gentleman and I were having coffee, and we were just kind of talking through this, building our businesses and income desires and different things. And we got to a point where I said, "Hey man, have you ever considered that in this moment you are it's 9 o'clock. Well, at that point it was 10. It's 10 o'clock on a Thursday morning in Colorado. We both are entrepreneurs and we just went for a mountain bike ride." Have you ever experienced letting something like that sink in and just feeling the complete joy of not only the freedom of what we just did, but recognizing what a huge blessing? And it's taken a while to get there, and it's taken hard work, and we have huge visions for our businesses collectively. But to sit in that moment, what a powerful exercise that was for me, that I've been doing a lot of lately, but also to share that with him. And we just sat there and kind of like in silence for 30 seconds to a minute, and just were like basking in it. And it was like, dude, this is rad, right? And it's not that we both have millions and millions in the bank, anything like that. It's, to your point, it's choosing in the present to express the gratitudes for, but also designing a life that I want to be able to get on my mountain bike. It's not only want, I will today in the afternoon go get on my mountain bike and go for a ride across the street in a beautiful area, because we've chosen to be in this place, right? And so I love what you're saying there, to give yourself permission, but also to empower yourself to declare those wants and then actually live it and manifest it and enjoy it, right? It's pretty powerful.
Love it. Thank you so much. I think that piece is so valuable, which is that I literally had the same experience this morning, where you might find yourself not experiencing the amount of pleasure you want. And then you start to consider, well, what am I actually doing with my life? What are all the blessings I actually have? And those blessings, the more that you appreciate them, they expand. And again, it's so, like you said, David, it's such a wonderful choice that we have. Do we want to be enjoying our life, or do we want to be upset? And you can find, I've spoken to very financially successful people, and I found miserable people. I found very happy, financially successful people, and vice versa. A person's joy is completely independent of any actual life circumstances. Obviously, it's easier to, well, who knows? That being said, the ability to appreciate what you have is likely the most valuable thing that we can develop in our lives. And there's a lot to be blessed.
Man, well, dude, we could probably go for another hour. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and I appreciate your words of wisdom. And I've taken a lot out of this conversation. I know our listeners will as well. How do we get more of you? How can people find out more about what you're doing and connect with you?
Guys, I would just promote you guys, because you guys are doing fantastic, and my ability to have you guys in my life means that whatever I give over, people should learn from you guys. The website's theruppgroup.com. Jacob Rupp on the socials, and whatever I can do, happy to do it. Thank you very much. Good seeing you guys.
Yeah, man, guys and gals, hey, reach out to Jacob. We'll put his website and his links in our show notes. Reach out to him. Wealth of information. He's helped us tremendously. Specifically, David. Like, David's kind of a turd, and he's kind of helped him become not such of a turd. So if you need any of that, reach out to Jacob. Hey, share this. If this was important to you, if this was impactful to you, screenshot it, share with someone, tell somebody about this episode. That's the best thing you can do for us. And most importantly, let's all go fill the storehouse together.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Hey, Jacob, before we sign off, I just want to express my gratitude for you. I think you're going to recognize all the lives you touched, whether in this life or the next. And I think there's so many people out there that you have influenced and impacted in a positive way, changing their lives in very practical, whether it's through mindset, whether it's through building a business, whether it's empowering them with knowledge that they didn't previously have or that they had, or you're just helping pull it out of them and enabling just significant life changes. And folks, I absolutely love your mission, love what you're doing. and the power that you bring to it, and your positivity. And just thank you so much for your dedication to others, for your service to others, and your time here today, man. Really appreciate it.
It's my honor. Thank you so much. Such a pleasure.
All right, brother. Hey, friends, make it a great day. Get it. What an awesome episode. Love me some Jacob Rupp. Also, he gave you two like amazing best question evers. And I have to say, I disagree, but no, they were great questions, and really the answers. I just love, again, how we discuss this idea of mindset, but it leads to, no kidding, practical actions and what we can do about it, and how it can impact our lives, and how we can choose to be better in our relationships, and how we can choose to be better professionally, how we could choose to be better in all these different areas, and then actually do something about it and action it. And a lot of it is just simple stuff, right? Like just the idea of saying what we want versus what we don't want. Like just that in and of itself is extremely powerful. And I love these tools. I love these tools and how they manifest in our lives.
Yeah. I mean, just the idea of taking the word but out of your vocabulary and replacing it with and, right? Like,
yeah,
I mean, that's powerful, man. Like you could say this entire sentence about how great this person is, but well, that just erased everything that you just said, right? Like think about that a little bit. I mean, how often do you use the word but in your life? Not B-U-T, not B-U-T-T.
Well, I was going to say,
I know your kids.
In my household, but is that's like a primary word, right? That's like that's the root of most other conversations.
Yeah.
But and even think about it. Even think about when you're having a conversation with somebody and they say but, like it's so true. It negates, because then you're waiting, you're on standby. Oh, here it comes. Here it comes. Yeah. Like, what's the true thing we're going to talk about? And right. So, very, very practical, very powerful. Love it.
Well, something else he was talking about that really had my mind going was, he talked about these columns in your life, right? And, you have a column of being healthy, and you have a column of creating income, and you have a column of your spiritual life, right? And then you go seek counsel in all these different areas and not try to combine them. Well, I would argue that something like the Storehouse Mastermind, I was thinking through that, like, we have a guy that, is super savvy on being healthy. We have a guy who's super savvy on investing and creating wealth. We have a guy who's super savvy on, spiritual growth. We have a guy who's a life coach. We have a guy who's a health coach. Like we have all these people,
and we don't have columns, but we have a circle, and the circle, if you flatten it out, then it's a bunch of columns.
Right. And so like I have those people in my life that I can go to and seek counsel in the areas where I want to grow. Right. And so surrounding yourself with a tribe where there are like-minded individuals that have, powers in certain areas, like it's so impactful, man. It's so impactful. And so I can't brag enough about the Storehouse Mastermind. We're actually going to be opening up more houses, pretty soon in the future. So be on the lookout for that. There's going to be an application. There will be an announcement that comes out on when that starts. And it is an amazing, amazing group of men that are just pushing each other up and helping each other grow. So if that sounds interesting to you, you should check it out. Be on the lookout for it. Continue to listen to this podcast. We'll announce it there. But then if you go to our website, storehouse310.com/mastermind, it'll be there as well for that big button that says apply now. So check it out.
Do something. Get some.
Bye.
Go. Thank you, friends, for listening to Filling the Storehouse. If you are growth-minded, community-focused, and willing to take uncommon action to redefine success and live an abundant life, visit our website at www.storehouse310.com to see all the ways we can connect.
Yeah, on our website, you can find information on everything we're doing, like joining our meetup page to get the details on our webinars and our local Thursday gatherings here in Colorado. From our site, you can also find information on and sign up for our next retreat. Finally, we always appreciate your love and support. Please share this episode and go rate us on your podcast player of choice.
Thank you again. Now go fill the storehouse.